Hello and welcome to another episode of If My Feet Could Talk podcast. I'm your host, Owen, and it's another episode, and it's another smasher. So let's catch up first, as I always do. I like to just see what I've been up to, really. And yesterday I smashed another milestone for my run streak, 1,096 days of running every day, which is 3 years, which includes a leap year day. Hence, it's not 1,095 days, which it would normally be for 3 years. But because of that leap year, it postponed it an extra day. Treated myself. But yeah, 3 years of running every day outside without fail and not injured, despite what a lot of experts like to say. However, I'm still doing it. I'm still getting there, and I'll be going for a run later after I record this podcast. The next race, though, is at the end of the month, a 45-mile coastal path race, Southwest Traverse, Mud Crew events, which I've raced before. Fingers crossed I do better than I have previous times I've raced this route, but who knows? We shall see. And then I've just entered Hope Festival in July, Trail Festival, the 36-hour event, 5-mile laps, off-road for 36 hours. We'll see how we get on. That's my second 36-hour race that I will have done. So we'll see how we get on with that. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to just running with friends and just enjoying what possibly could be the last Hope Trail Festival event. So yeah, that's me really. However, we'll move on. We'll move on to our next guest now. That's enough about me. We're connected together through the world of TikTok, that social media platform, and we've been following each other's adventures since. And I know the word inspirational gets battered around a lot, much like the word legend, but this guy is no exception to the rule of inspirational. So, ladies and gentlemen, listeners and viewers, I give you Mr. Paul Skivington. And here we are recording. Welcome to the podcast, Paul. How are you doing and how are the family?
I'm very good, thank you, mate. Thank you for asking.
How's the family? They're all well?
Yeah, my wife is a midwife, so she's at work and my kids are at school.
It's a nice quiet period for you at the moment. That's
yeah.
So for those that don't know who you are, and to be honest, there's probably quite a few people who've not come across you yet. Who are you and what do you do? Shed a little info about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Paul. I'm 44 years old. I'm an above knee amputee. I lost that in a motorbike crash. I work for a company called Cryo Shower, which me and my brothers have set up, which is basically the ability to give cold showers in warm environments. We do we take veterans sea swimming down on Southbourne Beach, and that's about it, really.
Excellent. You just mentioned, obviously, take. I sometimes go off on tangents on this podcast, but you mentioned you take a veterans sea swimming. What's brought all that about? Why veterans and sea swimming?
Yeah, so been a veteran myself, and one of my other, there's 3 brothers. One of the other ones is also a veteran, and we've both had. I mean, I lost a leg. My brother had a bad spinal injury, and we both kind of realised the benefits of cold water exposure. And I lost my leg in 2001, and it's a continuous recovery period. But actually, cold water and being in the cold water really changed my life. Got me off medication and all sorts. So I reached out to a local veterans group, and we've for the last 6 weeks we've been taking a group of veterans, and we've had some prison officers and some police officers come down and just do some breath work, which my brother does, a little bit of fizz, a warm up, and then 15 minutes in the sea, which everybody comes out feeling better than before they went in.
So whereabouts are you located?
So I live in a place called Skivington, Newton, which is near Yeovilton.
All right, yeah.
The air station, yeah. So I'm about 20 miles from there, but Southbourne Beach, which is about an hour away. So in the county of Dorset.
Dorset's just up the road from us here in Devon.
Yeah.
So taking you back quite a few years now, because you're the same age as me. Growing up as a child, were you brought up in Dorset or
no? So I was a Pab's brat. So my dad was in the army, and I was born in Germany.
Oh,
the back end of the 70s.
Yeah.
And I lived in Germany until my parents split, and then we moved to Yorkshire, Doncaster, and then moved to Swanage. And then I lived in Swanage from the age of till 10 to 16 till I joined the army.
So when you were growing up, obviously you were moving around a lot, being a pad kid, as my mum was. My grandfather was also in the army for all his army career. But were you sporty as a child? Did you? Or
yes. Yeah. I was very sporty. I used to run, play football. I did all the usual sports for the school. I played football to quite a decent standard.
Yeah.
So back in the day when there was, your parents used to say, "Get outside." We've sort of come full circle. We want the kids to go outside, but they want to stay inside and play on the PlayStation or whatever. But no, so obviously as a kid, I was outside all the time, and I've always been part of sports teams, which have proven to be valuable sort of institutions to be involved in.
Oh, good. So did you have anyone like in your family that was quite sporty, that was you possibly got your sporty genes from, your inspiration to be?
Well, I had so one of my uncles was in the PT Corps. He was exceptionally sporty, represented the army and combined services at football, rugby. He did it all really. But so he would have been the person I kind of looked up to. But no, you sort of coming from a town like Swanage, you play for a team, and then from like under 12s, and then you just sort of grow as a team, and as long as you stick at it, it takes you into your 20s.
So you're, from what I'm hearing, you've got a lot of army background, haven't you?
Yeah.
Was that your ultimate influence into joining the army?
100%. I mean, there was no plan B.
No.
Well, in fact, that's a slight lie. I mean, the first time I watched Indiana Jones, I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Fair enough. Was it because the area you're from as well? There wasn't a lot other sort of jobs to get into?
No, I mean, for me, there really was no other option. I just always wanted to be in the army, and it was what sort of branch of the military I wanted to be in. What regiment or corps. And I settled on the engineers because I was too clever for the artillery, and sorry, gunners, too clever for the artillery, which was my first choice actually. But because I wanted to join as soon as I'd finished my GCSEs, the engineers had, it was before the Army Apprentice College, so you could either, you could join as a junior engineer, which is what I did. as an apprentice blacksmith.
So you joined pretty much straight out of school at a young age.
Yes. So yeah. So I enlisted. I was still 16, and I was supposed to go to Chepstow, which was the Royal Engineers College, but they closed that, and then so I had to defer until the January. So yeah, January 1995, I went in. So like 17 and 9 weeks, something like that.
So quite, still reasonably quite young overall.
Yeah.
How did you find that being a youngster in the military? Because a lot of people ask me, what age should they join the Navy or the military? And I come, because I'm teaching phase 1 now, basic training. You can have the most mature 16-year-old and the most immature 20-odd-year-old. It makes no difference in my eyes. Yeah. So how did you find it as a young lad?
Well, I was exceptionally immature. I was exceptionally immature, and because my dad was in the army and both of my uncles were in the army, I thought I would smash it, and I wasn't prepared enough. Whereas, shout out to my family members who could have sort of got a grip to me. But no, I wasn't prepared enough mentally. I mean, physically, I was A1. I was mega fit, but I didn't have quite the right mindset, because, I mean, it is a cliche, but it is a culture shock. When you go into the military, it's all encompassing. It takes over every aspect of your life, and it's something that you have to commit 100% to. You don't join the military for the money. You join because you want to join, pretty much. And yeah, I like the idea of being in the army, but I wasn't mentally prepared for how long a journey it was going to be.
So you would have joined in what, the late 90s, 95, 96? Is that about
Yeah,
right?
so January 95, I actually went in, yeah.
Yeah, so that was, literally 2 years before I joined the Navy. So what was, once you got through, obviously, the basic training and you slightly matured, what was the army like for you?
Yeah, it was good. So, I mean, being an engineer's apprentice, you would do your 1 year's basic training. So that would be, it's almost like a junior leaders, which is what they used to have. But it was called the Engineers Apprentice College, and your rank was apprentice tradesman. So you'd do that for 1 year, and then you would move to Chatham and do your trade training, which I was a blacksmith. So I went to Chatham, but unfortunately at the end of my course, I broke my arm, falling down some stairs. So I couldn't complete the end of my trade training. So then I went into adult service, did my combat engineer training, and then I went straight into 9 Squadron, which was the airborne engineers unit.
All right, so that meant you got your is it cherry beret?
Yeah, maroon beret.
That's the one, maroon. I know we call you cherry heads. So
yeah.
Yes, maroon. That's the one. So how did you find the airborne side of things?
Yeah, very, very good. So I passed P Company, did my jumps course. It was an exciting, obviously pre-Afghan and Iraq. You had all the Balkans kicking off. Ireland, which wasn't kicking off. I did one operational tour out in Ireland, where we took down one of the hilltop sites. So a really big engineering task, which was really interesting. But yeah, I mean, it was a good time. So the late 90s were a good time.
So would you call yourself a parrot, or would you still call yourself an engineer?
Always an engineer, but I would always caveat it with airborne engineer.
Yeah,
because I'm exceptionally proud of passing P Company and doing my jumps course. But yeah, definitely a sapper first, because I'm very proud of my engineer's heritage.
So which sort of areas of operations did you serve in? You mentioned Northern Ireland.
Yeah. So that was it. I mean, I got up to quite a lot of shenanigans, where I went to MCTC, and missed a couple of deployments through ill discipline. basically.
Well,
Which,
for those that don't know, do you want to
Yeah.
explain what MCT is, or what it used to be known as before?
yeah, well, it used to be known, so MCTC stands for the Military Correctional Training Centre, and it used to be known as the Glass House. And it's basically army jail, military jail. Funny enough, I was in there with a naval meteorologist.
That doesn't surprise me. The weather girls get up to all sorts of serious problems.
But he told that the watch commander to F off.
Yeah.
And he got a couple of months. But yeah, I mean, I look back. I try not to regret. You know, that's a useless emotion. But I look back and I reflect on, you know, things that I could have done differently had I been maybe more mature, and not lived in the moment. And, you know, I would have had a much different army career. I'm still very proud of my army career, but it could have been so much more.
Yeah. And so during this period, did you manage to do any sports? Did you get involved in any teams or anything?
Yeah. So I played. So the unit I was in was 9 Parachute Squadron Royal Engineers, and we were a unit of 150 guys. You know, so very small squadron, and we were based at 5 Airborne Brigade at the time. We were based in Aldershot, and we were the best team in the Royal Engineers one year. So, you know, so army structures, sort of all the core football players get sent to a particular unit, but we managed to win the whole thing. We went a whole season undefeated, played in the Army minor units finals. So yeah, lots of football accolades actually. Yeah.
So sort of football was your main thing back then, was it?
Yeah, football, bit of rugby sevens, but the majority of it was football, because we had a very strong football team.
So what happened? Why did you end up finishing your army career? It's probably the best word to put it, more than leave, because you didn't want to leave.
No, I definitely didn't want to leave. But to be completely frank, I was on the wrong path anyway. You know, I just finished my B1 Combat Engineers course, and I was supposed to go on my junior NCO's cadre, but I got pulled off by my OC because you know, I got a bit of a shit report from my B1, which is unfortunate. You know, academically scored well, but you know, just terrible attitude. Yes, so I managed to do my bike test out in Ireland. Was never a biker. Cole Fogarty was massive at the time. Bought myself a Ducati, and within 300 miles, I never got my chance to scare myself. I crashed it and lost my leg.
So how did you crash?
I crashed on Weymouth seafront, riding too quickly in the rain.
Right. And did you just lose it, or?
Yeah, I basically slipped on the sleeping policeman and went straight into a set of railings.
Ouch.
So traumatically lost my leg at the scene. So it came off in my boot.
Right.
So yeah, I was very lucky that the police helicopter was running late, and they picked me up and saved my life.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me a bit of the story. One of the reasons why my mum would never let me get a bike, because she was a A&E nurse back in the day, and she was once handed a motorcyclist boot with a leg still attached in it.
Yeah.
So I can understand where she gets that from.
Yeah.
But so did the railing just slice it off, or what?
Yeah. So basically, the front wheel hit the railings, and then obviously I'm still traveling at that speed, and the bike came down on my left side and crushed my arm. I was very lucky to keep my arm, and my left leg went.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite horrific. And were you married at the time? Did you have
No. I had a girlfriend at the time. No, I met my wife afterwards. So then the next sort of few.
So where did you end up?
But so I was airlifted to Dorchester.
Yeah.
Because that was, trying to save my life initially. And then I went on a road move to Salisbury, where Odstock ward, where they were going to try and save the leg. And yeah, so I lost the leg traumatically below the knee, but due to the extent of the damage to my left leg, my parents had to make the decision, keep the knee or take it above, and they made that that unenviable decision, which was most definitely the right decision.
Apart from obviously when you came to and had that initial of fuck,
yeah.
What went through your head when you were in that hospital bed?
I don't know. It was I discharged myself after 6 days.
Oh, Jesus fuck.
Yeah, so I was in intensive care, and I just remember just being, horrible. I remember losing my leg. I remember the nurse saying to me, she said, "Do you know what you've done?" Because I was adamant I'd broken my femur.
Right.
And she said, my parents, I subsequently found out my parents wanted to tell me, but, when you've got a plaster, the best way to take it off is just to rip it off. And the nurse said to me, she said, "Oh, do you know what you've done?" I said, "Yeah, I've broken my femur." She goes, No, you've lost your leg above the knee. And I remember being sort of in the hospital bed with the sheets tied across the chest, and I just lifted my left, this little stump was there, and, I soon realized that life will never be the same again.
No. And obviously realizing that now you can reflect back on that. Do you think completely different to your attitude? You mentioned obviously you had a bit of a shit attitude in the army and stuff like that. As your nature, as your attitude to life and everything totally changed now, as well as obviously physically.
100%. I am a different person. Everything changed. Everything changed for me when I lost my leg. When you are vulnerable, you become you're in a wheelchair, and I had to have my arm like that for 3 months because I had what was called compartment syndrome. And whereas you used to be brash and would walk into a bar and not care who was staring, and stand and hold my ground, all of a sudden you're just this shrinking violet in a wheelchair, and I felt the shell of my the person I used to be. And yeah, it was psychologically very tough to get my head round that Paul of old
it's no more,
is dead.
But thinking about it now,
yeah,
do you think that's a good thing?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I wasn't a bad person. I just made terrible choices. Or if someone was going to get caught, it'd always be me.
Yeah,
it would always be me. There could be 30 guys there. I mean, one story, for example, we were out on ops, and there was we had a 2-cam rule, and pretty much everybody just disregarded it. Everybody got shit-faced. I was the guy that got caught.
Standard.
Yeah. And that was just like a microcosm of my career. But c'est la vie. But I, like I said, I discharged myself after 6 days. When I moved out of intensive care, went onto the ward, and it was just full of sick people. I had something inside of me. And I'm not sure if it's the military training or what, but I thought, right, I can't be in here. I've got to do stuff. So I discharged myself from hospital after 6 days, and moved in with my mum and my now stepdad. And that's when not when my recovery started, but that's when, that was day one of my new life.
Yeah. So what was then the process with the army? Did they support you? Did they treat you to a certain extent before obviously you could no longer serve?
Yeah, you obviously hear some horror stories. The army were they were amazing to me. Well, my squadron were amazing to me. My OC, my sergeant major, and my troop staff, they were fantastic. But at the end of the day, you're a number. You know, once you know. So back in the day, it used to be called Y listed. So you'd be Y listed, which meant you can't deploy, and then you'd have to go through a med board to get your P rating. And I went to Headley Court a couple of times, but when I went through Headley Court, there was no lower limbs. So I went for my arms, but there was no prosthetics. The prosthetics you used to get were pretty shit. So yeah, it was physically, it was tough, but then equally, I sort of reverting, my mindset has completely changed. So obviously there was some kind of drive in me that made me pass P company and all that. Then that kind of died, and I went through the wilderness years of drinking alcohol and thinking, right, I'm just going to be disabled for the rest of my life and not do anything. And then the pull that social media sees, the rethinking disability and all that kind of stuff, whereas actually it's being accountable for the mistakes I've made, but equally not comparing myself to anybody else. But today I'm going to be better than I was yesterday in whatever metric I decide to measure. So I'm continually growing, continually reflecting, and being the father of children, passing on some of that knowledge that my kids won't be twats.
So how old were you at this point when the army said, I'm sorry, we no longer need you?
Yeah, so I left, I was 25.
So you were still reasonably quite young.
Yeah, so I lost my leg at 23, and then I had a couple of years in going through rehab, trying to get everything sorted because my arm was quite complex. So 25. Yeah, 25. Yeah.
Wow.
And there was no plan B then,
Wow.
out, and it was just like shit.
Yeah. So obviously you would have been embossed out, medical pension, all that sort of stuff.
That wasn't as straightforward. I got originally it was services no longer required, but actually help from SAFA, and
yeah,
there was an admin error on the note. So they'd said that I can't be employed due to my medical condition, which kind of helped. But the Royal British Legion and SAFA sort of gave me a casework and helped me out. But yeah, so I got pensioned out, fortunately, because lots of people have to fight for it. So another thing that's aided my recovery is I'm exceptionally grateful.
Yeah, as you said, not everyone's fortunate enough when they get embossed and stuff like that. So we have to thank the pension gods in some way for that. So obviously you lost your leg, and you touched on alcohol. What was your lowest point? Or you finally went, enough's enough, let's move on?
Well, but there was a few years of it, really, just settling into a new life, which is basically what it was, because military days were working hard, get on the lash, and that was it. But then post leg, it was just get on the lash, and find any excuse just to go on the beer.
Yeah.
And that went on for a good few years, actually.
So from there, obviously, you talked about some of your outside support, so RBL, SAFA.
Yeah.
The recovery process, once you decided, let's get on, let's put myself better than yesterday. Yeah. What other outside support have you received in rehab and stuff like that?
Well, so we need to just sort of do a tiny segue, because in that period of me being sort of drinking lots and whatever, I met my now wife, and she said to me, you've got to sort your shit out, or you know, you can continue like this, but I won't hang around. So then I went, and the Legion again helped me. I did, because again, not knowing any clue of career path, I went and did the psychometric testing, you know, found I was quite good with, and quick and accurate with numbers, which then led me to go to college, and I did AutoCAD, so design draftsman stuff, and then went to Southampton Uni after that and did a HNC in architectural technology. So, you know, alongside my recovery, there was sort of a maturing through academics and studying. But at this point, I wasn't really doing any phys.
Yeah. So were you just getting yourself round on the standard wheelchair and crutches?
No. So I mean, once I got fitted with my prosthetic, I mean, this is a story which I often sort of reflect on, and I tell people, because I am a very positive person. But unless you're an amputee, you can never explain to somebody that feeling when you first put on the prosthetic leg. It's the most unnatural, horrible feeling. Honestly, it made me feel sick. So you wait all these months to get fitted for a leg, and you're excited about getting a leg. And I remember it so vividly. Wheeled in my wheelchair, put the leg on, and I tried to walk in it, and it was, you know, it was horrible. And I sat back down and said, "No, Mum, wheel me out." And I said, "I'm never going to wear a prosthetic leg." I was adamant at that moment. I would never wear a prosthetic leg. So she wheeled me into the waiting room, and with that, me sat there chuntering. I've got my 9 Parachute Squadron T-shirt on. You know, I'm sat and I'm pissed off and I'm like, upset. With that, the doors open of the waiting room, and in runs this tiny red-headed little girl, and she's got no legs, and she's on these pink plastic drain pipes, and she just runs straight in front of me, straight into the private room, and she's got a massive smile on the face. And I was like, "You're a fucking paratrooper, sort your shit out." And then went back in, and that was actually probably my lowest point with regards to my sort of rehabilitation. But then knowing that there is light at the end of the tunnel, you just got to look for it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then, you know, that sort of spurred me on to think, right,
that was the switch.
Yeah, that was the switch, and it really was.
That's mad how something as innocent as a little girl on 2 prosthetics can have such a big impact on your life, and you didn't even go looking for that. You know, it just turned up and flicked that switch. It's mad, isn't it?
And a few, well, it must have been about 20 years later, I was at a different limb centre, and there was a mum, and that she had her child who was a toddler who'd lost a leg. And there's nothing as sweet but so sad as a tiny child in a prosthetic leg. You know, it's horrible, it's heartbreaking, but it's also it's nice because you're seeing a child walk. And I was walking into the hospital, and they were walking out, so a complete reversal of what had happened to me all those years ago. And the mum was sort of heavy. I could see she was really heavy in her heart, and the little kid was all smiley. And I just went and spoke to the child, and then I said to the mum, and I was like, "They're going to be absolutely fine. I can see they're going to be." And you know, I had that moment to pay it forward, and it felt good, and I could see that the mum she'd seen me walk across the car park, and I walked quite well, and it was something that was another special moment.
That is quite nice as well. The fact that you said it, you're paying it forward, and who knows, that young kid may be doing exactly what you're doing now, paying it forward onto somebody else, and that cycle, that linear line within our verse, or this multiverse, if you want to put it, is continuing on from that little girl who walked on her 2 little pipes, as you called it.
That's it. Yeah,
that's mad. But you have obviously recovered to basically the best you're gonna be physically, with
definitely.
1 leg. how are you finding it now? Is it just natural now? Is it just
Yeah, I mean,
as natural as it's going to be?
yeah, I mean, I was always, so even when I was on crutches, so I used to have a normal crutch and a gutter crutch. And if you don't know what a gutter crutch is, it's a crutch that supports your forearm and then comes down, and you know, it's,
Yeah.
so you're not putting weight through the wrist. And so, I mean, straight away I was like walking, trying to do fizz, you know, even if it's just for 100 meters. But it wasn't until, you know, I'd been to university, but there was always something missing. You know, I'd had kids, but there was always something missing within me. You know, I was sort of going through the motions of life. But then I went to a golf day, and I found the game of golf. And that, playing golf and competing, changed everything for me. It was, you know, and the one takeaway would be, play a sport, take up a sport, compete against something, even if you're competing against yourself, but compete. That competition, you know, reigniting the fire inside was life-changing.
And I mean, that brings me on to the next bit. I started to get to know you through the social media platform that is TikTok. I think about over a year now, maybe a bit longer. And if you're not swimming, hopping into the sea, or roly-polying into the sea, you're on a bike, or you've stuck your running blade on, you're going for a run, or you're doing jiu-jitsu, or you're doing something that is active. I could tell, obviously, jiu-jitsu is your main foray.
Yes.
And obviously all the others you do on the side, maybe not as competitively, but jiu-jitsu is your main foray. What got you into jiu-jitsu to start with, and how do you find it being you are a disabled or classed as disabled athlete against an abled athlete?
So the reason, I mean, so fundamentally, I believe that job number one of the parent, apart from loving your kids and all that kind of stuff, that is giving your children the ability to defend themselves. I mean, I remember being a kid and the bully would say to me, right, you're dead after school. And I just remember shitting myself all day thinking, oh God, I'm going to get filled in here. Obviously, time goes on, you know, you realise that the bully's the bully. So I got my son into boxing, my son boxed. I was a boxing coach for 7 years. He fell out of love with boxing. I needed to get something for my daughter because she needed. I wanted her to have something. She wasn't keen on boxing, so I enrolled us all in jiu-jitsu, and we went there. And, you know, we've never ever looked back. It is a life-changing art.
Yeah, because you're not the first amputee that I've seen do jiu-jitsu. Another quite well-known triple amputee, Mark Onward. He's heavily into it, but I find it quite fascinating how, because obviously if you watch the Paralympics and the normal Olympics, the martial arts, you have obviously the able-bodied and you have the disabled-bodied, be it blind, deaf, one-limbed, or what have you, separated. They don't fight the able-bodied because that possible advantage the able-bodied may have, which is understandable. But I've seen obviously you fighting able-bodied in competitions. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
How do you find it?
So I am a 90-kilo man.
Yeah.
I'm 6'2", so I'm reasonably sized. Because I wear a prosthetic, when I weigh in, I take my leg off, you know, which weighs close to 5 kilos. So I fight so I should be like a middle heavy guy. So, 86 kilos plus, but I get to fight in the 82 kilos category. So invariably I have a strength advantage.
Yeah.
I've got a limb missing, but there's a strength advantage. And so, I mean, there are lots of Paralympic, para jiu-jitsu competitions and stuff, but they all seem to be in South America. Actually, shout out to Mark Ormeroyd and the Reorg charity, because they are holding a jiu-jitsu tournament on the 20th of August, which I am competing in, and that will be my first disabled, going against somebody with one leg, which will be interesting. It'll be a completely different dynamic, but yeah, I mean, it has its advantages, it has its disadvantages, much like, because somebody can have great cardio or be really strong.
So, has any of your competitors, the guys that you fought against, ever talked about how they find it totally different to fighting you, because you maybe a different strategy because you've got one leg and you fight differently to someone with two?
Well, probably, so it's called slap and bump. So the minute you slap and bump, it's on. So normally, if I'm fighting in a competition, then the chances are they've not seen me unless they've, gone on social media. So there's that split second where you can, they're trying to figure you out, and then I can be like mega aggressive and try and get something. But my last fight, which was against another Gracie Baha dude, which is the school I train with, he was from a different school, but they'd worked out that actually, just because he's got one leg, give him no quarter, which for me is like the greatest greatest achievement. I don't want anybody's sympathy. I want you, if we're touching gloves, as it were, let's go. And it feels good. And I lost, but I don't care about that.
No. The fact you're given the opportunity is all you want, isn't it?
Exactly.
So obviously we talked about your judo and stuff. How are you finding all the other aspects, like your running with the running blade? Because that's a different type of prosthetic, isn't it?
Yeah, that is. So it's blade. So I checked out my numbers. I mean, I haven't ran for a while, just because I like to. I've got a spinning bike now, so the majority of my cardio is done on a bike. But so I did last year. I did the hard 75 challenge.
Yeah, I remember.
And so I did a 5K and a 10K, and my 5K time was 36 minutes, and I did 10Ks in 1:34, which isn't bad considering it's on a pogo stick.
Yeah. And how did you find running with a blade for the first few times? Because obviously it's a different technique to probably walking on a.
Yeah, it's huge. It's hugely different, and what it does, you have to do it aggressively, because you have to drive your stump backwards. So you've got to, because it's just like a hydraulic, whatever the word is, like a drum. So it's sort of, you have to flick it back quite aggressively, and sometimes it slips or it's not there. I mean, the amount of times I've fallen over, but it feels amazing. It feels amazing moving at a quicker speed than walking. That's why I like, that's why I enjoyed skiing and stuff. Anything and golf, anything that I'm with able-bodied people, as it were, but then doing it my way and as good, if not slightly better.
So we all know that sort of being active is great for the body and it's great for the mind. But if you could sum up what being active now means to you, how would you sum it up? So
being active now, for me, it's a habit, and much like you with your continuous running, it's a habit. Humans will form habits, but the secret is try and form a habit which is good for you. So, I always, pretty much every day do some form of phys. And I love it. It just makes me feel good.
You've confirmed everything I say to people when they ask me about my running every day. I say, you don't have to run every day. We are born to be active. Everyone's got time to be active at least once a day.
Yeah.
For 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a mile, or what have you. There's 24 hours in the day to fit 10 minutes of activity in. And I guarantee your body will thank you, your mind will thank you.
And you tomorrow will thank you as well, your future you.
Yeah. Exactly. And you've just sort of backed me up there with that. I mean, I don't understand why people could not be active in some form. Whether it's just going for a walk down the beach, or or around the woods, or what have you, just getting out and being active is it's mind changing. I think it's probably a good.
But I think that because like things like PE, that's a big BM, but PE at school is shocking.
Yeah,
it's absolutely terrible. I remember being a kid at school and you would have a football match against another school or a rugby match once a week, but they don't do anything like that anymore. It's and kids need to be active. We complain about obesity in children and stuff. I mean, my children are very lucky that they get all their phys done with outside clubs, but not everybody has that opportunity. And the school, what's wrong with one lesson per day doing phys?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I remember going through primary school, and we'd be swimming once a week. We'd be going swimming to the local pool. My sons in the last year of primary school, I think they've been swimming once. I think in the entire time that they've been in that primary school. So it is crazy how phys ed isn't as important, I think, as academics.
But that's the thing. I mean, that was kind of the point I was trying to make, is that I played football all through school, and then I played football for a team outside of school, and always did stuff, and it's been like a continuation, other than that sort of time where I lost my leg but then found something else. Whereas if they're not doing it at school, and they come home from school and they play PlayStation, or they're not being taken out, or not going out for walks and stuff, sports isn't part of life, or physical activity isn't part of life.
Yeah, totally agree. I totally agree. And bringing us on to that, Invictus Games. You ever fancied chucking your name in a hat for anything in there?
No, to be honest, you don't really. I've never heard anything about it. Nobody said, "Oh, come and do a tryout," or whatever. I mean, I played golf. There's a charity called the On Course Foundation.
Yeah.
And I got to captain the Simpson Cup team, playing against the Americans. So I've travelled all around the world playing golf. So that took up a large portion of my time. I don't know if you've ever played golf, but if you get bitten by the but if you get I wasn't very good either. But if you get bitten by the golf bug, there's no time for any other sport, because every free minute you have, you're swinging a club. So that kind of took everything. But no, I mean, hopefully they get a jiu-jitsu in the Invictus Games, and I'll be all over it.
I once played golf just with the Ship Society. We were in Mumbai in India, and I'm not very good about it. It was a day off the ship, as you do, so you might as well go and play. And we had caddies. It's the first time I ever had a caddy. Right, so this Indian chap was my caddy, and I'm not very good with woods. And I was like, "Give me the driver. Give me my my 3-iron, please." He was like, "No, you want wood." I went, "No, give me the 3-iron." And so he gave me the wood, and I sliced it. And he went, "Here's your 3-iron. Cheers, thank you." And I knocked it down. Anyway, as the game went on, he turns around to me. He goes, "Sab, your long game not very good." I went, "Yeah, I know." He went, "Your short game not bad. Putting shit. Thanks." Thanks for that. And that was pretty much summed up my golf. I wasn't very good at it, but I enjoyed it. It was a good time out, and I haven't played it for a while. I've still got some wacky sticks in the garage. I might drag out one day, but I'm not that good at it. Anyway, so we'll move on. What's next for you? Any big plans ahead?
No, so I mean, I'm concentrating on my jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I want to be as good as that as I can. I mean, it's quite a tough sport, lots of niggles, lots of aches, lots of pains. But it's such a great release, having a scrap without actually getting punched is, it's quite good. So no, continuing my jiu-jitsu, got a spinning bike, get my cardio to a decent level. I'm working on my VO2 max. But I'm sure my Garmin's giving me duff info.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about the Garmin.
No.
It's not the most accurate things when it comes to VO2 and heartbeat and stuff. But so you mentioned obviously you've got the reorg competition coming up for jiu-jitsu. Any other competitions coming up for that?
No, so well, normally this is like competition season, but I've got my brother's wedding in Mexico in July, so I don't want to get injured too much. So I'm sort of just working on being in good shape, ready for the beach in Mexico.
Fair enough. That moves us on now to our quick fire questions. 10 quick fire questions. I'll ask you a question. You give us a quick answer. We'll move on to the next one. So question 1, do you have a favorite bit of kit that you like to take with you when doing any form of activity? Is there like a buff or a certain type of t-shirt or anything like that you have to have on an activity?
Short shorts.
Short shorts, nice. Is there any favorite food that you like to snack on when you're out doing anything, hiking or anything like
that? Yeah, just like trail mix, or I quite like the old grenade bars actually.
Nice. Marmite fan, yes or no?
No.
Shocker. If someone was to play you in a movie about your life, who would it be?
Dale Winton.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think I'm better looking than I actually am. So,
favorite place you've ever been to?
Oh, great question. Yosemite National Park.
Nice. What's your favorite meal?
Favorite meal? Curry.
Do you have any phantom leg pains?
Yes.
If there was a song about your life, what song would it be?
The Gambler.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Definitely not.
And who's your sporting hero?
My sporting hero. Oof. Well, my sporting hero was a boxer, Nigel Benn.
Oh, yeah.
The Dark Destroyer back in the day. I mean, that division was amazing. The sporting hero, probably Sevi Ballesteros.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah, he is a legend of the golfing world.
Yeah.
So, as we draw the podcast to the end, is there any advice for anyone who may be listening or watching that may be starting a similar journey of limb loss or injury that you may pass on to them?
There is no way to sugarcoat a limb loss. It is a shit situation. It really is. However, that will pass. You will find a groove and, accept it. That's a huge thing. Accept your new life, your new paradigm. The leg will never come back, or the arm won't come back. We're not salamanders yet. One day it will happen, but not in my lifetime. Just crack on. Like I said earlier, don't compare yourself to Billy. I was going to say Oscar Pistorius, but he'd be a terrible.
No, you don't do that. You should
be a
shoot your
terrible
girlfriend in the bathroom.
but don't compare yourself to somebody who's smashing it. Compare yourself. Right, if you walked 10 meters yesterday, well, let's go for 15 today. Set yourself manageable challenges, and the rest will come. But manage your expectations. Aim for the stars, 100%. But you're not on a rocket ship.
This is true. If anyone wanted to find you and follow you on various social media platforms, where can they find you?
So I have a YouTube channel called Rethinking Disability, which is basically I just put me doing fizz on, Legless9 on TikTok and Instagram. And I will answer pretty much most normal DMs, not like, can you send me a picture of your stump, which I get occasionally.
You really get that?
Yeah.
Wow. I thought maybe if you're a female, you might get that.
No.
That's because you're a good-looking chap. That's what it is.
I'm a bit of an icon, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's because you're airborne. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I'll stick the links. I can't believe that's bad. I'll stick the links in the description below so people can easily find them. But for now, I think I found my title for this one. I think it's not My Feet Could Talk. If My Foot Could Talk, I think it's probably best for this one. Thanks for giving me some of your time, Paul. It's been much appreciated, and it's been nice for me to find out more about you, because obviously I see you through the world of TikTok and Instagram and stuff. But it's nice to actually get to know you more, and I appreciate the time that you've spent here on this podcast. It's been really good to catch up.
Brilliant, mate. No, thank you very much, and keep smashing the running.
I will do. Thank you very much. What I'll do now is I'll pause this and we'll have a little chat afterwards. But for now, thank you very much, Paul.